hello. Welcome to Center Pages. Welcome back to my Chiana baby. How are you feeling? I hope that all is well and that everything is going good with the start of the new week. Last week I did some reading, getting some things together. I had a good week last week, so I want to talk about it. I went to the book thing over the weekend, got my books, ready to discuss with you what I picked up. I was into my fantasy science fiction bag, deep in my bag. Look at my bag. When I went, I actually had my little wagon. The last time I went, it was so long ago. The last time I went to the book thing, but the last time I went, I didn't have a little book wagon little thing. Well, this time it was different. I've stepped up my game. I've gotten things together. I had my little cart, and I met my girlfriend Shanti. I keep pronouncing her name wrong. Shanti out there. I met Shanti out, and we had a ball. I love whenever I'm able to link up with her because she always has the best conversations. That girl is so funny. I love hanging out with her and being with her. So whenever she makes time for me, I always just find it an honor, and I always want to try to make sure that I get out there to her. So she met me at the book thing, and we got some books together. But before I talk about that, I want to do a little update. So what I'm reading right now, I'm reading The Reformatory by Tananarive Due and what is it called? A Sorceress Comes This Way by T. Kingfisher. This is my first T. Kingfisher book. Both of them are fantasy, sci-fi genre. Like I said, lately I've just been wanting to read something different, be into something different, and I realized that it's a certain type of fantasy that I like versus what I don't like. Let me see. On Friday, I worked a really long work shift, so I was able to put a major dent in The Reformatory because that book is like over 20 hours long. It took a little minute for me to get into it though, so I had to get past like that 6 hour mark with The Reformatory. But once I got past 6 hours, and Robbie, the main character, the protagonist in The Reformatory, once he gets to The Reformatory, actually arrives at it, and the BS starts, it picks up pace and it gets way more, it held my attention more, and I was glad that I stuck with it. I had started it like last year and I couldn't stick with it then, but then I was determined this year. I said, let me just get through at least like the first quarter of it and see, does it pick up and does it hold my attention? And it actually did. And I was glad that I put a good dent in it. So I got like 44% of the way into it. That was almost half. That means I still have 12 hours left of the book to go, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it's definitely a slow burn, but it's a good slow burn. The Sorceress Comes to Call is another slow burn fantasy, but I'm enjoying it. What I realize is, okay, so in The Sorceress Comes to Call, there is a character, and her name is Hester, and she's like in her early 50s, I think. I realized that the type of fantasy that I like for them to be adult characters for one. I like a good female character. I need it to be with the shit. Like I need some foolishness in it. I need some murder, sex, fairies, something that's gonna keep my attention with the fantasy. I realized that, okay, I'm not opposed to fairies and some dragons and things like that. I'm not opposed to werewolves and whatnot. I just need it to be something else along with it. Like I said, female character, or a monster, a ghost, something else with it that's gonna keep me gripped. Let me see. I realized that when as I was reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King, even though it was good, I realized that I'm not quite interested in the 17-year-old kid coming of age and going on a journey about it. I think I'm okay with that. That fairy tale was a long journey for me, and I'm okay not going on it again. And I realized that during that even though it was good, I'm good on that genre of fantasy. Um, Let me see. I would kind of also put um, reading. It was what was another like The Hobbit. I'm not interested in reading The Hobbit. I tried to read The Hobbit. I couldn't get it. I kind of clump that kind of fantasy all in like the same. I put it all in the same kind of box, like that quest. I call it white man fantasy. I don't know. I feel like it's not really for me. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not what I would prefer to read. However, I do love a good Tanana Reeve do, like the Reformatory. Um, I love a good Octavia. Well, Octavia Butler. She's okay. Um, I prefer Tanana Reeve do over Octavia Butler. I read Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, and it was good. It was excellent. Um, but and I'm just trying to get into Kindred by her also. I'm just having a hard time with it holding my attention. But Tanana, I liked Blood Colony by her. I had started that series, and I read that with my eyeballs, honey. You know, anything that can hold my attention for me to read with my raw eyeballs is good. So I just find Tanana Reeve a little bit easier to get through. I don't know why. I prefer her over Octavia, but I like that type of fantasy. Um, I read On a Pale Horse by Pierce Anthony. Excellent. I enjoyed that. Even though Zane was an adult. So the character in On a Pale Horse, his name is Zane, and he's an adult, but I liked what he had to do, and I liked his character in the book of On a Pale Horse. Speaking of Pierce Anthony, why isn't any of his stuff um adapted into like movies? Why isn't any of his books movies? I even noticed that like Dean Koontz, I only was able to find one movie by Dean Koontz. I'm sure if I dig further, do a little more research, I'll be able to find more movie adaptations of Dean Koontz books. But not everything got to be about a Stephen King. There are other authors and fantasy adaptations that need to be made into, other than all the time, Stephen King and it. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but I'm also kind of over it. and every book that he write, they make a movie about. I would love to see a Pierce Anthony movie. On a Pale Horse, his and Incarnations of Immortality, I think it's what it's called. I think that's what the series is called. Series I think would be really good to see on the big screen. I immersive read On a Pale Horse, it was excellent. I listened to it and followed along. It was so good, and it opened my eyes further to my love of fantasy. So when I went to um the book thing, I kept my eyes open for the fantasy, the sci-fi section, and the murder mystery section. Usually when I go to the book thing, I stay in that self-help section for like 30-40 minutes. I'm in the self-help section, and I don't really give much time to the other rest of the whole non-fiction and everything else that they had. But this time I was like, you know what, I want to do something different. I really wanted to go and expand my fantasy repertoire and what I have on my shelf as far as fantasy and sci-fi, and that's what I did. I got quite a few of them. I spent like 20 minutes in the sci-fi section and 20 minutes in the fantasy section, and the last 20 minutes I spent in the self-help section. That was fun. I realized that I like darker fantasy. That's what I kept my eye open for at the book thing. I like dark fantasy, and I looked for female authors, females on the front covers, like that. That's what grabs my attention the quickest and holds it the longest. I love that kind of fantasy, and that's what I got a little bit of everything. I got some dragons in here. I've got some fairies in here. So I think that's enough of the catch up. I want to get into these books because I had a ball, and I was able to really get a lot of what I wanted far as different fantasy is concerned, with girls and written by women and dragons and stuff like that. I am so like shocked because I was so dead set against fantasy for so long until like Pierce Anthony. I like dark fantasy. I like for it to be set like vintage fantasy too. Books that look like this. I like a good like from the 80s type fantasy. That is so much fun. And this actually I started this already. I'm 50 pages into this big thick book. I like the thicker the better so long as it's good. And it is good. I thought that it was going to be super boring and hard to get through and hard to understand, and it's not. It's just fun. So this one is about this girl, and her name is Firestarter, and she basically was raised by wolves, and now she has to go back to human society and be reacclimated with the two-leggers, as they call them. um, but she has a wolf brother companion that is along with her on the journey, and it's good. I'm really enjoying it. So okay, this is Through Wolf's Eyes by Jane Lindskold, and I'm gonna be downloading and listening to a couple of her other books. She has another series. I forget what it's called. I'll put it in up here when I do the editing. She has another series that I really want to get into, and I'm gonna finish this series out too. At least read the next 2 or 3 more books in it. So anyway, okay. It says, Firekeeper only vaguely remembers a time when she didn't live with her family, a pack of royal wolves, bigger, stronger, and smarter than normal wolves. Now her pack leaders are sending her back to live among the humans, as they promised her mother years ago. Some of the humans think she may be the lost heir to their throne. This could be good, and it could be very, very dangerous. In the months to come, learning to behave like a human will turn out to be more complicated than she'd ever imagined. But though human ways might be stranger than anything found in the forest, the infighting in the humans' pack is nothing Firekeeper hasn't seen before, that she understands just fine. She's not your standard issue princess, and this is not your standard issue fairy tale. Combines the mythic resonance of a feral child raised by wolves with a fascinating fantasy. Bravo! Yay! That's gonna be good. I started it and I am so enjoying it. Like I said, I'm 50 pages in. I'll keep you posted for when I do finish it. I'm gonna start off. I divided it into 3 different piles. The first pile is the pile that I am going to set aside for reading later on in life. I'm gonna put those up, and then the second pile is what I'm gonna put on my bookshelf right now and on my TBR right now because I'm really excited about those. So I'll save the second pile of my most excited for books for later on. Let's get through the first pile first. That's in this bag. And I want to talk about the nonfiction. I never really do talk about the nonfiction. I like to keep fun. cute they are. Especially a cute little softback paperback book. I love a good paperback book. We have one, two, three, 8 of them here. All right. The Sacrifice of Tamar. Now, this is I think, a Holocaust novel. It says Tamar Feingold is a happy. Oh, hold on. Let me get it. I got my coffee. I forgot about. Ugh. I got a cold coffee that I had made earlier. I'm gonna definitely be talking a lot, so I'm gonna need my drink. But it says Tamar Feingold is a happy young bride in one of Brooklyn's insulated ultra-Orthodox enclaves. As the wife of a rising young rabbi and a Talmud scholar, her status is assured. But this staid, predictable life crashes violently when Tamar is great. Humiliated and confused, she refuses to risk the unbearable stigma that would result from telling the truth. She attempts to hide her shame, but is sent plummeting into a moral crisis when she discovers that she is pregnant and cannot be sure who the father is. Faced with impossible choices, Tamar turns to the 2 best friends of her childhood for help. As the 3 relive their past struggles, Tamar discovers a personal courage unknown to her, one that reminds her that heartbreaking sacrifice and impossible decisions can call into being the unexpected triumph of the human spirit. So that's a heavy read, but it also seemed interesting. And her being Jewish, I wanted to see how her community, and her girlfriends help her through that tragedy. We'll see. No, this is the one that I was gonna share. Okay. In Death's Shadow by Marcia Talley. Hannah Ives struggled bravely through the ravages of illness, and fellow patient Valerie Stone was at her side. As cancer survivors, they have a lot to celebrate when they meet again, but their reunion is short-lived. Soon, Valerie is dead, and the suspicious Hannah must sift through a mountain of clues trying to uncover the cause of her friend's untimely death. But there are those in the big business of living and dying who think she's becoming too curious, and it's high time her questions were silenced. This is good. It's reminding me of like big pharma and conspiracy theory type of read. Eagles. He built an empire on power and the love of one woman. It grabbed my attention because I love a good vintage 70s cover. Look at his hair. Honey, thick and luscious. Look at all their hair. It's gorgeous. I love the cover. It says, here is the powerful saga of Ronald Eagles, a man whose name struck awe in some, envy in others, and hatred in the rest. Yeah, I did a little bit of research on this. I heard that this is good, that this story is really, really good. And it's like a coming of age and into manhood. Okay, I'm sorry. Made homeless by a German bomber, scarred by the horrors of World War II, Eagles survived by instinct alone. And as the penniless orphan became an international tycoon, Eagles approached life with ruthlessness and vengeance, never thinking his empire was built on sand. From the innocent passions of his first true love to the tight embrace of money and power, from the war-torn misery of firebombed Europe to the lavish opulence of Manhattan society, this is the story of a streetwise boy, a reckless gambler, a renowned financier, whose remarkable life was ruled by anguish and ambition, tragedy and triumph. Sounds interesting. I want to read a good 70s, 80s. Um, it was published in 1983. Yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be fun. Good 70s, 80s read. Call It Sleep. This is another coming of age. Many novels are written, few remembered. Henry Roth's Call It Sleep is one of the novels that was written, published, forgotten, and later acclaimed to a great work. Like other masterpieces that were first overlooked, Call It Sleep has waited for decades to be rediscovered by a young generation of readers and critics. Call It Sleep is the story of an immigrant boy, David Schwerl, in the slum jungles of the city, from foul rat-infested cellars up dark stairways to the airy freedom of New York tenement roofs, he overlooks his world. Through his eyes, we see both ugliness and beauty, the terrors of poverty, the sexual conflicts of his parents, his own initiation into sex by a lame girl, the violence of street gangs. These scenes, written by an author who uses language powerfully, have led Walter Allen to call the book one of the great achievements of American writing this century. Call It Sleep by Henry Roth. Another coming of age, but it's more memoir like. All right. I've got two John D. MacDonald books. Nightmare in Pink. Dark haired and delicately built, she was a sweetly wanton career girl living alone in a Manhattan walk up. Her name was Nina, and in addition to companionship, she offered Travis McGee the first loose thread in the elaborate fabric of a gigantic swindle. McGee sets out on a wild and torturous chase that takes him into the decadent world of cafe society, the ruthless world of big money, and the weird world of hallucinatory drugs. Nightmare in Pink. I hope she turned him every way but loose. Now, The Scarlet Ruse by John D. MacDonald. McGee was busy with his beloved houseboat, the Busted Flush. Too busy to pay attention to the little old man with the missing postage stamps. Except that they weren't ordinary stamps. No, indeed. They were rare stamps. $400,000 worth. Even so, McGee was not all that interested in them until a generously endowed Amazon named Mary Alice McDermott made her grand entrance. She was a 6-foot knockout who knew a hell of a lot about rare stamps and the ways to a boat bum's vulnerable heart. But it wasn't McGee's heart that was in danger. It was all of him, hide and hair complete, because a syndicate killer had put a contract out on McGee, a killer who knew something about stamps and even more about McGee. I like stamps collecting. I thought that was a cute little little thing to have in a story. I thought that was a cute little trope. I guess it will be not a trope necessarily, but like a little element in that story was the stamp collecting. I thought that was cute. Is it raining out? I don't think it's raining quite yet. I Owe You. It was foggy the day of the funeral. I Owe You, by Nancy Pickard. Okay. It was foggy the day of the funeral, while swirling mists that matched the thick fog of pain and confusion in Jenny's brain. Jenny's mother was dead, carried away by pneumonia after years in the Hampshire Psychiatric Hospital. As friends and family pressed round to offer condolences, a hand clutched Jenny's arm. An anonymous voice whispered, "Forgive me, it was an accident." Jenny had no idea what it meant, and it didn't seem to matter. Nothing seemed to matter except her grief and her guilt, and the haunting questions that made her fear for her own sanity. What had really been wrong with her mother? How did it happen? And how was it all connected with the bankruptcy of the family business, a disaster her father had never been able to explain? When Jenny tried to find out, she was met with a stone wall of polite silence. but there was nothing polite about whoever shut the garage door when poor, exhausted Jenny fell asleep with the car's motor running. We shall see. All right, put these ones away, and then we can get out the ones that I'm gonna immediately put on my TBR and the ones that I am most excited and looking forward to reading. Well, I guess I can do that later on. I'll have fun with that bag right now. Okay, these ones are going to be my next reads coming up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. 6 of them, but of course, right now I done already started through Wolf's Eyes. I already talked about that one. So once I get done through Wolf's Eyes, I'm going to be chunking into one of these. All right. I think I'm going to try to make this my thumbnail time. Okay. The Silicone Mage. Oh, yes. The Silicone Mage by Barbara Hamley. Another one written by a woman. It was impossible, Joanne knew. Oh, and it's a female character. It was impossible, Joanne knew, when she betrayed her lover, Antrig's Windrose, to the council. Antrig Windrose, that's his name. Let me start over. It was impossible, Joanne knew. When she betrayed her lover, Antrig Windrose, to the council, he had been sentenced to death. Then she had believed his brain was possessed by the dark mage, Seraclin. These fantasy names. Though now she knew that Seraclin had chosen Gary Fairchild, but guilty or innocent, Antrig was separated from her by the awesome void between the worlds, far from any hope of rescue. Nevertheless, she had to save him. Seraclin was planning to gain immortality by placing his mind in a computer that would get its power by draining the life force from all on both worlds, dooming everyone to eternal misery and hopelessness. And only Antrig was strong enough, a wizard, to challenge the dark mage. Once again, Joanne dared the fearsome tunnel through the void, praying desperately that Antrig still lived and that she could find help to free him. If not, but she refused to think of that. All right. Looking forward to it. The Broken Crescent. Nate Black was, wait a minute, blah, blah, blah. There's a section of the description missing, so I'm just going to have to start down a little bit where I can get it from a new sentence. When he had been in his mid-teens, Nate Black is the character. When he'd been in his mid-teens, he cracked pretty much security system online, and he made sure to stop his illicit activities. So he's an internet hacker, and he made sure to stop his illicit activities while he was still underage, so he would be safe from prosecution, even if anyone ever tracked down the true identity of the hacker known as Azrael. But suddenly, that's his alias, Azrael. But suddenly, all Nate's plans come crashing down around him when he received an email from an unknown source, a sender who knew that Nate was the legendary hacker Azrael. When a stranger turned up at his door, Nate assumed the feds had tracked him down, and panicking, he made a run for it. A run that took him first into a mysterious void, and then into a pre-tech land where humans ruled over an alien race, and true power lay with the illicit scholars who could work magic. Nate didn't know who had brought him here or why, but he did know that his life would be forfeit unless he could discover what his captors wanted from him. Didn't I just say I was tired of reading about little boys going on in adventures? But this one seemed interesting, especially since it's an old vintage copy, a vintage book. I think it was published in like the 90s. I'm not sure. Let me see. When was this published? In 2004. We'll see if it's not hitting like how I want it to. What was interesting was him being an internet hacker. that seemed fun. But if it's not hitting on what I wanted to be hitting on, I'm going to DNF it and put it in the little free library. So then, Master of Many Treasures by Mary Brown. I'm looking so forward to it. Look at that cover. It just looks so fun. Written by a woman. Love it, love it. At the end of Pigs Don't Fly, so this is a part of a series. I'm going to have to get the first book in the series, I think. It says, at the end of Pigs Don't Fly, Summer had just found that the heartbreakingly handsome knight whom she had helped return to his home was not the great love of her life after all. No, her true love, it turned out, was the pig. Or actually, the dragon that the winged pig turned out to be. Worse yet, said dragon, who can take on human form, was last seen headed east at 5,000 feet. But Summer had just successfully completed one quest against seemingly insurmountable odds, and if the plucky lass had to undertake an even more arduous journey to be with the only man slash dragon in the whole world, for her, so be it. Even if she had to disguise herself as a young boy, escape from an ambushed caravan, figure out what to do with the 10-year-old slave and a dancing bear that she accidentally acquired, convince a professional thief that she is not looking for treasure, and somehow convince her lover's fellow dragon that it is perfectly natural for them to be together. And once again, Summer will find herself in a situation very different from her intended destination. Sounds interesting. I'm just looking for something different. Oh, now this one I was really looking forward to because it's another 80s one and it looks so 80s. Chrome Circle by Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon. Look at that cover. Look at the car and the girl. Is she a cat girl? I think she's like a fox girl or something. Yes. It's covered over by a sticker. Let me see if I can get it off real quick. It says, there are mages out there, and some of them are kind of cute. Like Tananim, for instance, a young human mage with a predilection for hot rock, fast cars, and dangerous women. Now he thinks he's found Mrs. Right, but there are 3 tiny little problems. 1, her father is a dragon. 2, she's not human, though she is definitely a fox. 3, she seems to want to kill him. Tananim's mastery is sometimes erratic, but his talent for getting himself into trouble is perfect. Look at the dragon on the back. Cute. I can't wait to read it. And then we have Rosemary and Rue by Susan McGuire. It says, the world of fairy never disappeared. It merely went into hiding, continuing to exist parallel to our own. Sorcery is the key to fairy survival, but no secret can be kept forever. And when the fae and mortal worlds collide, changelings are born, half human, half fae, outsiders from birth. These second-class children of fairies spend their lives fighting for the respect of their immortal relations. Or, in the case of October, Toby Day, rejecting it completely. After getting burned by both sides of her heritage, Toby has denied the Fae world, retreating into a normal life. Unfortunately for her, Fairy has other ideas. The murder of Countess Evening Winterrose, one of the secret regents of the San Francisco Bay Area, pulls Toby back into the Fae world. Unable to resist Evening's dying curse, which binds her to investigate, Toby is forced to resume her old position as knight-errant to the Duke of Shadow Hills and begins renewing old alliances that may prove her only hope of solving the mystery before the curse catches up with her. Yes! One of the, quote here it says, by T.A. Pratt, one of the most successful blends of mystery and fantasy I've ever read, like Raymond Chandler by way of Pamela Dean. Toby Day has become one of my favorite heroines, and I can't wait to read more of her continuing adventures. Oh yay! I was like, fairy, get in my bag, honey. I was with all of it. I wanted all the fairies, all the werewolves, the dragons, the mages, all of them. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I thought this cover was so cute. Isn't it adorable? Look at the kitty and the doggy. Dead with the Wind by Miranda James. Angel and Dick Ducote tend to stay put in Athena, Mississippi, but a wedding is a good reason to say a temporary farewell to Charlie Harris's cat Diesel and go visit relatives. But while their stay in Louisiana is warm enough, the atmosphere leading up to the wedding is downright cold, with bride-to-be Sandra Delavan putting her trust fund above little things like love and loyalty. When a violent storm supposedly sweeps Sandra off a balcony to her death, the sisters discover that many of the guests attending the wedding had major reasons to object to Sandra's marriage. Now it's up to Angel and Dick to use their down-home instincts to expose dubious alibis, silver-plated secrets, and one relentless murderer who lives for till death do us part. That's fun. That's so cute. Love the cover. All right. Well, that's it. The last few books that I have in there are my non-fictions, and those aren't important. Those aren't fun. We like to keep it fun over here. So I'm going to wrap this up. I think that's about it. I will see you all next time. Have a good week, a good rest of your day, a good adventure, whatever it is that you're doing.